everybody. How is everybody doing? Welcome to Transgender again. We are here again.
Yeah.
We're
And
back.
we had a incredible week because there was something called total solar eclipse. And we
Yeah.
had one person which was present. So
Yeah.
well, the three of us are in Florida, so there was no totally. We had only about 48%, something like that. But Bobby was there, so it was really nice.
Yeah.
So tell us all about it.
Well,
Uh,
yeah. Well, I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and there was going to be like 97% here, but I don't know if you've been to an eclipse before, but the sun is so bright that it still looks pretty bright outside, even when 97% of it's covered. And so it was like, oh, we only had to go like 70, 75 miles west of here to be in Indiana and in the path of totality. And I tried to talk a couple of friends into going. One of them had a brother with a really nice place in the middle of Indiana. And so we went, and it was everything I expected. We had the glasses and all of that stuff. And I I was saying the thing that really kind of surprised me when it went total for like 4 minutes. It's like everybody in this neighborhood was applauding. And I didn't expect that. I thought, and I didn't get abducted, and I didn't get raptured, or none of that stuff happened. And so it anyhow, it was really magnificent. And I was really glad I'd seen it because I'd never been in a total one before. I'd been in two or three partial ones, but that was just, for me, it was just kind of like a partial eclipse was just kind of like a gray, cloudy day. It was still a little dim, but this, being able to see that corona and everything was really great. And the stars and the planets and all of that stuff became visible. And so it was. There was an astronomy buff with us that was pointing out all the planets and the stars and things we could see. So it was really fun. And it's going to be 20 years until there's another one anywhere close to us in the United States. And I was thinking I better go now instead of putting it off one more time. So I'm glad.
Anyway, Bobby, thank you for sharing. It is really a great, it's an experience. I've seen one many, many years ago in 99. But it's always an experience, which really shows that the world is so incredible. And there's
Yes,
so many things that we are always finding out. And like like Jim was telling before, there's no mountain without a valley, right?
right.
Jimmy, would you like to go on that?
Sure. Yeah, speaking of the eclipse, here in Southeast Florida, I think it was maybe, what do you say, maybe 40%?
It
Not
was
even.
48% apparently, yeah.
Yeah, so I had put a couple welding lenses, one on top of the other, and looked at it.
Mhm.
It didn't last very long, but there was really no daylight reduction or anything like that. But it was interesting. So today we'll start our conversation with the balance of life, and then who knows where we'll end up. So when we were getting warmed up, we were talking about um, on our website or on our page. There's folks that are cheering us, and there's folks that are booing us. And you really, if you step back and look at how things work, if there's not if in order for there to be a mountain, there has to be a valley.
Yeah.
In order for there to be light, there needs to be darkness. In order for there to be love, there has to be the absence of love. So I know years ago, um, I got things done by sheer horsepower. I considered myself like a human bulldozer, and you know, and as I've evolved and spent more time on the planet, I've come to realization that um, the Chinese call it yin and yang. You know, you can't have one without the other, and so you can't have left unless there's a right. And um, once we understand that concept, we'll be more uh, accepting of all things, because there can't be one thing unless there's another. There can't be this unless there's that. And once we uh, subscribe to that concept and recognize its validity and how all things, um, you can't have up without a down, left, right, hot, cold. The list goes on and on and on. So the universe, and same what we're talking about the moon. So the moon keeps the Earth in check. It's like a counterbalance. And what's interesting is that the I'm not an astrologer, but the moon is result for the tides of our oceans.
Right.
So there's a balance and a counterbalance thing going on there. And so this would be a nice topic to start on, and I'm sure we'll end up talking about something else. But the universe strives to achieve balance in all ways. And if we recognize that and apply these principles to our thinking in our daily life and how we interact with other humans, it'll prescribe to smoother sailing in our life. Ella.
Yeah, it is true. The haters, I thank the haters to prove that we exist. And this is something very important, because we do exist and we are a reality. And if you are against us, well, you are proving that. Okay. So that's simple as that. I mean,
Yes, there's a saying that I heard a while back. If you're not being booed or cheered, you're not even in the damn game.
absolutely, exactly. And they are proving it. Thinking of that, how wonderful, Raji. What do you have in mind?
Oh, it's my turn in the game. It's my turn now.
Yeah.
So well, I totally comprehend and get the yin and the yang. I understand that, and the importance of opposites. Without darkness, we wouldn't be able to appreciate the light or even know the difference. Without hate, we wouldn't be able to know love and appreciate love, etc., etc. However, I think that as a human being, we have the ability to decide which one we will focus on, because you can understand the reality of like yin and yang, and one not being able to be without the other, in the sense of, so we know the difference. And then as individuals, we could choose, are we going to focus on the love, or are we going to focus on the hate? Because it both exists for a reason, but which one makes you feel better for your life? And I'll give you a perfect example. The other day I was going into Walgreens. A girl is walking out. She's in her early 20s. She's like, "Oh my God, it's you." So I smiled, and she says, "You're not going to believe this. The other day, my girlfriend and I, we were at lunch, and we were talking about all sorts of things. And for some reason, you came up, your story and your journey, and the positive essence that you have." And I said, "Oh my God, isn't that something?" I said, "It's amazing how the universe is, because oftentimes you'll think about somebody or talk about somebody, and they'll pop up. You'll either bump into them, or you'll hear about them on the news or see something online about them. And I said, see, you were talking about me a few days ago, and now look, we get to meet. Because I didn't know this girl.
Yeah.
So she was like, she asked for a picture, and I took a picture, and she said, you made my day. And I told her, you made my day. Okay, so it was a great experience, positive, uplifting. I walk into Walgreens, and there's two guys in there, jerks, um, negative energy, and you could just feel like the disdain they had for me. And I was like, honey, if you only knew how much disdain I had for your ass or for your asses. Like, people, the arrogance of people, like, acting like they're tolerating me. And I'm thinking, I'm tolerating your ignorant, negative ass. I mean, I'm just saying, like, these are the thoughts going through my head. So anyway, I get to my car, and I'm, putting my bags in and everything. And I'm in the car, and I'm thinking about the two jerks. And in the moment, in that very moment, I stopped myself, and I said, Raji, you had a phenomenal moment with a human being who was coming out of Walgreens when you were walking in. It was like an aha moment, and it was phenomenal. Don't let those negative guys diminish that. So yes, I get the fact that the yin and the yang, negative and positive, dark and light, and et cetera, et cetera. But I feel that our minds, with the minds that we have the power to decide which one we're going to focus on and what we're going to attract more of. Ella?
No, absolutely. And yeah, it's the yang and yang. And, it is really quite an important thing to stay positive, because the haters will always be haters. But you know what? I have to tell you something. I doubt that many of these haters actually found themselves,
Mhm.
For some reason. Is it jealousy? It's stupidity? It's probably not because they found themselves. I mean, I have to say, and that is one thing that about the transgender community, every single person in this community had a fight, a struggle to find themselves, which probably made us better. And I think that many people most people in our community have got a very high degree of acceptance for other people. Not everybody, but many of us are. And that is, I think, really quite incredible. Yeah. Um, Bobby.
Oh, well, thank you. I just love listening to you all, and you just make so many thoughts pop into mind. But I think, when you talk about balance, and I'm a baby boomer of women of a certain age, and
You're
the
not young.
world, yeah, the world that we grew up in was real different from the world of the 20 somethings and the 30 and 40 somethings now. And so I don't know. I'm trying to think, well, how do you be relevant to a broad audience when you're this old? But I think when I think about balance, and before we transition or come out, you know, we have a sense of balance. It's called our comfort zone. We've been really good at pretending to be something that we aren't, and we have succeeded in building some kind of world. And I know that for me, I was terrified. I was terrified and paralyzed by fear at the thought of coming out, because it was like, catastrophic thinking. I'm going to lose my marriage. I'm going to lose my home. I'm going to lose my health care insurance. I'm going to lose my job. I am going to lose everything. And that kind of fear just, kept me stuck in that kind of fake comfort zone for most of my life. And it was only until um, I'm one of those people that just was getting more and more suicidal, and it was like, okay, I can't complete a suicide unless I just go ahead and do this. I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen to me? Because this is worse. I'm going to kill myself. So it's like, so and so it was like, well, okay, I've got to do this. I've got to do it. And so that, I mean, there were a few people that knew about my transness and all that stuff for decades, but it was just a handful of people. And now it's like, okay, you're going to have to come out to the whole world. And and I did lose everything. I lost 35-year marriage, but um, I kept my jobs, and they had some health benefits attached to that, and uh, I did lose a good 80% of my friends, but my friends were in love with this pretend person, and like the 20% that remained, it was like they wanted to be better friends than ever. And so it was like all of a sudden I got to learn who really loved having me in their life, and who was willing to be my cheerleader. And it's like, God, what a treasure, what a blessing that was to discover who your real friends are. And I remember just the kind of the straw that broke my back, the camel's back, was a book that had come out. And it was written by a palliative care nurse in Australia who had spent her whole career with dying people in hospice care. And she kept a journal of the things that they would talk about, at the end of life. And the name of her book was The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And I don't know what compelled me to buy it and read it, but it really did. But the number one regret of this whole career, being with dying people in the end stages of their life, the number one regret was I regret I never had the courage to live life true to myself, only the life others expected of me. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks, because at that time I had never lived a whole day or a whole week true to myself. I had always been living the life others expected of me. And I was overwhelmed. How pathetic is that? And so that was really kind of where I found that courage to say, I am not going to let that be true of my life. I am not going to let that be true. And since then, I've learned that the haters are the hate. I believe that we are disliked because so many people are living the life that's expected of them, and they're not living a life that's true to themselves. They're living a life, and they're angry with us because we won't conform to the stuff that they've conformed to. And we're evil, and we're a threat, and we're a menace because we will not conform. And it's like, I can't conform. I can't, and I won't, and I'm not going to do it. And so it really helps me be a little more compassionate, and it also helps me. Am I breaking up or something? Anyhow, I don't know if I am. Uh,
I
but
can
but
hear you.
anyhow, that's just all I wanted to say, is that the balance is that we create this world of a comfort zone, and we miss out on living life true to ourselves until we push through all that fear. And it's scary, and I know it is, and you will lose a lot, but what you gain is everything.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. No, I have to say, I wrote a book about it because I wrote one book. It's called "I Was Born a Boy from Venus," Time to Be Yourself. So, it's a little bit of my history. It was the first book I wrote. So, and yeah, I am a baby boomer as well, like you. Being around in the 60s and trying to steal your sister's clothes all the time. and being coming, and you had my mother and my family, which are going, don't do that. That is very terrible. Don't do that. I mean, they didn't understand it at the time. Although there's some kind of echo, sorry, but
Yeah.
although there was already transgender people at the time, and we knew some in Lisbon, but it was very, very terrible thing, because they didn't understand it, and my mother knew. My mother knew that I was like that since the age of 5, 4, and she always. So, to tell you the truth, I spent all my life traveling to try to run away from myself, and going to the different countries, trying to find myself, and then I finally found myself. But I always had my little garderobe of clothes, always. I used to travel, go on business trips all over the world with my little bras and panties and everything, and I could not get that out of myself, of my of thing. I did it all my time during my professional time. I mean, every day, every moment that I would be alone, I would be doing that. And then you come to a day and you say, now it's over. Now it's over. Funnily enough, I had 2 marriages. Both of my wives knew that I was a transgender. They both knew before we got married, and they both accepted it more or less, When I say more or less. But it was, I mean, believe me, but I never divorced any of my wives because of my female or my transgender things. Always for some other reasons, but not because of that. Anyway, I am very, very happy that I found myself one day. It's better late than never. And yeah. And everybody's got a way. To tell you the truth, in that position that I was playing a role which was to survive, becoming a man and showing everybody it was a man. I learned many, many things. It was not negative. It was just part of my life. Everybody has got a different journey. And the journey is the enriching thing all the time. That's the way it goes. That is the way it goes. And I had mine, and I still have mine. And my God, I'm not finished yet. I've got a couple of more days. I see myself as a very young person. Even if even if my passport, it says something else. But I'm at the age now when they ask me for my ID because I buy some alcohol, I feel flattered. Thank you for asking.
When we were young, we didn't want to be carded. Now we love it because it's like, oh, thank you. I look young, okay.
But that's the history of that's our history. That's life. If I can tell something about for today's youth and today's people, instead of trying to tell everybody how to live, try to be yourself. Try to accept the other people the way they are. It's terrible to see some of these haters, which actually afterwards you found out that actually they get some bad stuff, So, yourself. I mean, it's like where is it? I mean, one of the states in the Arizona, put now a law which is from what you call it, 1856 or something like that.
Oh,
Oh,
I heard about that. Yeah,
oh,
they're trying to enforce a law from the 1800s.
yeah,
Thank, Thankfully, the governor said that as long as she's governor, that's not going to be. She's not going to allow that. So
yeah. I would come on. This is ridiculous. This is completely ridiculous, you know.
Oh, yeah, it
yeah,
really. But it's become such a hot button issue in women's reproductive rights, and a bunch of old white guys are making all of these decisions about a woman's body, and they're seeing that that's coming back to bite them. And boy, are they backpedaling in a hurry right now. Uh, I even saw.
because last time I checked, women can vote, and I guess they're realizing it now. So.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, politicians should know something and look at history.
I know.
Look at history. Every time that they forbid something, it doesn't stop. It's just put people into distress. That's all. And the people, I mean, abortion rights, like transgender health, if they forbid it, we'll just find a way to find something else. It's always been like that. It's always been like that. In that respect, I've got a little bit of a history lesson,
oh,
which is something which is very interesting. I've got a very good friend of mine in Switzerland, and his great grandfather was a member of the British Parliament in, I think it was 1820 or 1840.
hmm,
And they put the first law against homosexuality, but against gay men. And at the time, it was only against gay men because at the time, the Queen of England, Victoria, told openly that women don't do such things.
hmm,
And that's why women were not accused of. This guy was called Henry de la Bouchère, and he was the most hated politician in England.
oh,
Anyway, he had to go out of England because he was so hated, and they sent him. I mean, he was living in the south of France afterwards, and then afterwards in Switzerland because he couldn't go back to UK. And by the way, Queen Victoria hated the guy. But that's history of that is it's a reality. Another very interesting thing, and I don't know if this is 100% correct or not. So excuse me if it's wrong. I didn't fact check it, but apparently the one of the big translations of the Bible was ordered by an English king, and he was gay.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
King James had three male lovers. One in particular. Yeah,
So I'm glad you reinforced the story. So you
yeah,
see all these people, which I mean, who was it? Wasn't it one of the politicians here which was said that this Bible is by King James or something like that?
yeah.
Well, that was the Bible which was translated by the gay guy.
Uh,
the gay guy. That's the irony, right?
right. I know. I saw a post today. It's like you can thank a homosexual for your Bible.
Exactly. So so sorry. It's so crazy. And by the way, we have to thank as well the English history for their extremely support for transgender people. In India, there's been the Hijras. The Hijras have been transgender people for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They've been transgender, and I think it was as well in around 1840 or 1850 that the British, because India at the time was a British colony, they forbid any kind of transgender people. So the heteros were considered criminals. But, you know, they still existed. They didn't go away. And about 10 years ago, the Indian state reinstated the heteros as not being criminal.
Mhm.
It took a
Well,
long.
I think it's a testament to standing in your truth, despite what's going on with the leaders and the laws and all of that. Because, when people say, oh gosh, they talk about like, how can you live in the state of Florida and be trans? And I have to say, well, I think we're in South Florida, we're in a sweet spot. I mean, we have our issues, but this is a pretty good place to live in the state. But yeah, I mean, my response is, first of all, it's not that easy to just pick up and move to another state or
Right.
another country. And secondly, I'm not going to let the current leaders right now dictate the life that I live and who I am. I never have. For that matter, I wouldn't be who I am if I had. We've been through, depending on how long you've transitioned, but even if you hadn't transitioned, when you were trans inside, there were days back in the day when there were zero rights for us. And what did we still do? We still stood in our truth and lived our authenticity. So I think a lot of times, like when I go on social media and I see people and they write their little snarky things or hateful messages, you know someone can just not like you just because the way you moved your hand, the top you're wearing, I mean, really, the way you smile. I mean, because we all have our tastes, we all have our quirks and et cetera, et cetera. But my thing is, despite all of that, don't let anyone dim your light. Each and every one of us, we bring a light to the planet. It's a unique, special light that we each have. And my thing is because I said to a girlfriend last year, I said, I can't understand why some people can't see my light. And she stopped me and she said, girl, they see it, they can't take it. And then I thought, oh well, if they can't take my light, then tell them to put on some shades. If you can't, when you can't take the sun, you just put on sunglasses. So I just want to encourage people, despite what all is going on politically and in the world, not just here in America, but just world all over, and people's attitudes, don't let that discourage you from living your authenticity, because you will be supported. There are people that support us and that see our light and that help to lift us up. So I think it's very important to hold on to that, especially us as a transgender community. It's very important for us to hold on to. And so, I'll say this, and then I'll throw it back to Ella. Contrast. When there are things in life that you don't like or that you don't want, or that it just doesn't sit well with you, oftentimes that is called, people call that contrast. And what contrast is here for, it because contrast has a purpose. We're talking about the yin and the yang. Contrast has a purpose. Contrast is to make you know what you want even more. Because if you're getting something that you don't want, that means you know that you don't want that thing, and you can make up in your mind, no, I don't want this. I want that. And it gives you the fire and the zest to get the thing that you do want in your life. So contrast, it does have a place, and you can use it. We can all use it to our benefit. Ella.
Yeah, and there's someone here which has got, I think, a lot of bet and a lot of guts. Jimmy, I think it's your turn.
Jimmy,
Yeah,
Jimmy,
I'm hearing
Jimmy.
a lot of good stuff. And the concept of contrast. Um, if you put a white dot on a white wall, good luck finding the white dot.
Right.
Put a white dot on a black wall, you'll see the white dot. So um, again, if there wasn't things you didn't want, that wouldn't allow for things that we want. And Ellis said something pretty interesting. And I know I was talking to somebody a couple years ago about uh, finding themselves, but it didn't have to do with our community. We just had to do with this person's own journey. And I said to this person, you know, you can't travel the world to find something that you can only find within yourself. Finding ourselves in an internal journey, and I think finding ourselves has nothing to do with our physical location,
Nope.
but our spiritual location, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So learn to embrace the yin and yang.
Yep.
You know, you go to a restaurant and you have a bad meal, eat it and tip the server and walk out happy, because a lot of folks on the planet don't have a meal. You know, there's a saying, the young kid was complaining to his mom that he had no shoes until he saw a kid that had no feet. So it same like right now in South Florida, I'm in my car at a near the river. It's beautiful here, you know, and I know in the not too distant future it's going to be hot and rainy every day. And so embrace the thunderstorm, as that allows for the presence of a day like this. And another thing too, where our journey in our life, uh, I know everyone's journey is unique to themselves. Everyone has their own prescription to achieve self-mastery and self-actualization. Um, I don't, um, what's the word? I don't regret or have any negative feelings towards the history of my life. Um, I embrace the history of my life, because all the experiences that I have had up until this point were necessary to create the human being that I am now. So embrace the journey. You know, does the butterfly regret being a caterpillar? You know, I don't think so. And so embrace the journey. It's a step-by-step process, and um, be patient with ourselves, and just maintain that vision for ourselves. Work daily towards that vision. Realize that you're going to make more progress some days than others, but as long as we keep moving forward in our journey of life, we'll experience a sense of accomplishment, a sense of progress. You know, all humans need a sense of progress to feel a sense of fulfillment. Like if you just, are you treading water, or are you swimming closer to your destination? And so try to live a life where we're experiencing progress in one or more areas in our life, you know, spiritual, physical, mental, financially, you know, our health, um, education, you know, try to engage in activities that better ourselves. Read books, read Ella's books, read books, you know, watch motivational. That's what I do. It takes me maybe 30-40 minutes to get ready every morning. I usually watch a YouTube video on spiritual growth, motivation. I listened to a video from Deepak Chopra the other day, but he's sometimes difficult to understand. Um, Alan Watts is excellent. There's many, many, many motivational speakers and spiritual teachers out there to stimulate the mind and give us thoughts and um, grow ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually. Ella.
Absolutely, that is very, very important. And I would like to add something to that, just a little bit, is that, the young and the young, there's bad days and there's good days. And, but don't look at the bad days as being bad. They are just hurdles. They are just challenges which have to be met. And the good days sometimes are, they're good, but they are a challenge too, In the end, they are probably, giving you a better feel about yourself, but they've got their own challenges too. Never forget that. And I have to say right now, I've been having a little bit of a challenges and many things going on, not in a negative way at all, absolutely not. It's just that it's the business thing, the little challenges that come, that you have to work with it. Sometimes you have to, mainly the process of change is very, very unsure. You don't know where it's coming from, and in the process of change, you deal a lot with what we call, with some kind of, all of a sudden there's a kind of a background noise. Yeah, in the process of change, there's something called your feelings. You don't know where it's going. You don't know where it's going. And sometimes it's very hard to take that, because, but you have to follow the unknown, because that's where you have to go. It's sometimes where you don't know where you're going. And I mean, being a transgender person, it's not only because of being transgender, but for everything. But being a transgender, you are walking into the unknown and then finding yourself. So that is so important. That is where you grow. That's where you go through your challenges. Who wants to tell something? And let's go to the final rounds. Okay.
Well, you all make me think of so many things, um, and for some reason, you've got me thinking about um, a decision to love somebody. And, when things are going well, it's wonderful. You're on top of the world. But I'm pretty sure by the time you get to be our age, you've had some real trouble with all of that. You either got dumped or betrayed, or they died on you, and it hurts so bad. Especially, the first time you lose a love, to somebody else or something, and you just go, oh, I'll never love again. This just hurts too bad. And things like that happen to all of us. We suffer setbacks, failures, and that's a way that we learn who we are and what we're made of. And I've really um, struggled with that a lot, especially the last 2 years, because I lost the love of my life to breast cancer, and man, was that catastrophic. And there were days where it was all I could do to breathe, and I just got in a very dark place. But you've uh, it's, what are you going to do with that? It's like, yes. And I'm starting to learn that uh, the pains and the sufferings that we go through are really just teachers, and and they're tests, and we are going to find out how much resolve we have, how much resilience that we have, and what do we really believe in? And I really believe that my purpose here is to love my neighbors, and most people don't know a transgender person, and it's just like, well, well, I'm a really good one for you to get to know, and so I want you to meet me, and and I've been doing that. I read something, oh, it's many years ago, in a little book one of my sons gave me for Christmas, and it was a quote that just it's like the only thing I remember out of this book. And it was, 5 years from today, your life will be exactly as it is today, except for two things: the books you read and the people you meet. And and that just really resonated with me, that I think that sounds like a real nugget of wisdom to me. I couldn't argue with it. And ever since then, uh, it's easier for me to go out and meet a lot of people and put myself in positions where I'm going to meet a lot of people. And my calendar is full of going to events where I don't know anybody, but I'm going specifically because I want to get to know who's there. And I have two or three things every week that I do where I'm walking into a situation I've never been in before, and I'm doing it just because so I can meet people, and um, and that's been really good for me. Uh, I'm having a hard time of thinking of a situation where I regretted living like that. It's sometimes nothing happens, and I get my car and go back home, but 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 still, I force myself to get out there and meet people, and then and of course the books you read are really important too. But I've found that to be really true, at least in terms of finding happiness in transition, is that it's very dependent on what you read, what you put in your mind, and who you meet. And so that's kind of like my lifestyle right now, is meet a lot of people and read a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, that's very good. Raj, your turn.
Sure. Well, I'd like to leave everyone out there with the power of the eternal now. Just a reminder, because a lot of us, we live in the past or we're living in the future, meaning that we're thinking about past stuff, or we're thinking about what we're going to do tomorrow or next week, the future. And I'm not saying not to plan, planning is important, but what I mean about the power of now is really, now is all we have, because yesterday is gone, it doesn't even exist anymore, and tomorrow hasn't come yet. So the way you can exercise the power of now is when you walk. Like, actually be in the moment of walking. Like, if you go for a walk, a lot of times we're walking and we're thinking about, oh, I got to call, such and such, or I got to email such and such. Just, if you can, in that moment, just be with yourself and the action that you're doing. When you eat and enjoy, savor. The other day, I was getting ready, I had made dinner, and the phone rang. And I picked up and I was like, oh crap. And then, so I told was one of my girlfriends, I said, girl, can I give you a call back? Because I know what would have normally happened is I would have stayed on that phone, concentrating on the conversation and eating, and not really enjoying my meal, like savoring, like, when I put the food in my mouth and enjoying the taste. So that goes for all sorts of activities. Just try to be in the moment and embrace, the moment. It's a powerful thing to do. Ella?
No, I totally agree with you. That is really important. Jimmy, your last
Yes.
thought.
So I think we covered a lot of cool, good stuff here this afternoon. And I think like to sum it all up You know, you can't have a good day unless you experience a bad day. You know, if every day was a good day wouldn't have any good day meanings.
Yeah.
And so embrace the yin and yang of all things and understand that you can't have this unless there's that. And um, um, I think Raji was talking about this. You know, do we subscribe to this or do we subscribe to that? And I think that I'm not a psychologist, but in reviewing my own life, I think our how we experience influences in our youth uh, pre-program our minds to a disposition of whether we're optimistic or pessimistic. There's some kind of influence that triggers our brain to think one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very fortunate as a young person. I was in the Scouts, the Marines, even as a young age. And I spoke about this on other podcasts where I was a real fan of Zig Ziglar. And there was a company called Nightingale Conant that produced these cassette tapes that had all Zig Ziglar, Dennis Waitley, Earl Nightingale come to mind. And I listened to these tapes all the time, all the time. And I think that had a profound impact on how my brain is wired, where we can either be solution oriented. Do we find solutions or do we find problems? And maybe do a self-analysis. You know, do you see opportunity or do you see obstacles? And we can choose how we see things based on the wiring of our brain. And we spoke about this a podcast or two ago, how we can actually change the wiring of our brain through our internal thought, our self-talk, our conversation. The self-talk that we have is not private. The universe is listening. And our thoughts produce frequencies and vibrations that are transmitted into the ethers, into the collective consciousness, and are stored in the akasha somehow, and create the collective consciousness and the vibratory plane of our planet. And I read something the other day, and I shared this with somebody. I'll do the best I can to bring it up. It says your negative self-talk is messing you up in ways that you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Be aware of our internal conversation because the universe is listening.
Absolutely.
And I love you all.
Yeah. Well, with all these words, I totally agree with everything. But, you know, the power of your mind is really very strong. And negativity, which you bring to your life, stays. Positivity stays. And try to think positive, because positivity is so freaking important. Let the haters be there. Put your shield and say, you know, your hate is going to be ping pong back to you. I don't need it, because this is our magical power as well. You know, you don't have to hear everything people say. Anyway, with all these thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed Transgurus today. We'll come back next week, and bye everybody. Enjoy. Subscribe please to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe.
Yes.
Bye. Bye.